All right, Taurus, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is going to be for January 4th through the 10th of 2016. My name is Athen, and this is for Sidereal Astrology. If you are new to this type of astrology, do check the description down below because the signs are different. All right, Taurus, so this week there's a lot going on astrologically. I'm going to go ahead and break it down one by one. We got a lot of shifts of directions. We got Mercury going retrograde here on Tuesday, followed by a Jupiter retrograde Thursday, Friday, and then a new moon on Saturday. So a lot going on, and as you can see, a lot of aspects too. So I'm going to cover the most important things. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. All right, so starting here on Tuesday, the beginning of the week, Mercury slowing down, stops, and goes retrograde. And this is a Mercury that's been squaring up to Mars. So for you Tauruses in particular, this is your 8th house. This is where Mercury's been direct. This is where recently your sun's gone into, and this is where that new moon is going to be. So the 8th house is all about what's deeper in life, right? And it can be bonds, it can be relationship bonds, but all areas of life that you feel like are meaningful beyond the surface level of things. Okay, it's also a time perhaps of research, finding the truth within self, finding the truth within life in general. Okay, but forming those healthy bonds with self and with the things in your life, whether it's relationships, work, or what have you. So it's very deep, and it's all about transformation and healing. So now with Mercury slowing down and going retrograde, it's a good time to reflect on all of this stuff. For these next few weeks, Mercury retrograde here, redoing, reflecting on what's meaningful to you. Where can you have more of that depth, that openness, that transparency with yourself primarily, and then naturally it does unfold into the other areas of life. And with that square up to Mars, perhaps there's been a lot of drive for you to express yourself or to do your interests or things that are important to you, right? Or anything else 5th house related, creativity, children, romance. But usually with Mars, there's very direct, very assertive with that self-expression. But it's been in Virgo, which is your 5th house, which is about meticulously doing so, right? But with that square, it does require that extra attention, that extra patience in regards to both those areas as well as these 8th house things. And really how you can integrate your self-expression to be more deep and more meaningful as it has been. Now, Mercury naturally rules your 2nd and your 5th house. So every time Mercury goes retrograde, it's always an important time for you to be reflecting on that self-expression. Okay, and kind of redoing that, or you're figuring out what your interests are, etc. And your 2nd house of finances. So it's a good time to kind of rehash that stuff, really rethink about your values in life, which is a big part of your life for you Taurans, right? Your values, specifically your material values. So that's all what's going sort of in retrograde, and reflecting upon that, I think, is a great way of working with it, bringing extra attention to those areas as it usually is. And Venus is going to be squaring up to Neptune here on Tuesday. So this is a Venus in your 8th house. I think lately maybe you've been seeing the beauty of connecting with relationships. Maybe that's become a little bit easier in the regards that Saturn's still been in your 7th. So there has been that, in the bigger sense, patience and discipline and maturity really being required and coming through your relationships. But now with Venus, and Venus is going to go over Saturn here later in the week, it can lighten things up. It can bring in a little bit of that enjoyment. And with you specifically, because it is your ruler, it's generally having that slow and steady, mature approach to things, right? Even with the routine as well, because she rules your 6th house. Okay, so that's going to be a little later in the week, but this early part, things involving you and your goals and just who you are in general, is going to be squaring up to Neptune. So perhaps there's uncertainty, perhaps there's doubt about how life's unfolding, who you are, self-assertion, things like this, maybe even with the routine or the work. So go with the flow, have that faith and trust, because Neptune's in your 10th house, helping you release any attachments to your career and really have a career that's more in alignment with your soul. And by career, I mean anything that's, your legacy, not just for profit. So whatever it is you do productively, it's been so important for you to do that in that way that's giving. And you feel like is your, supplies that soul food, which usually comes through giving, through, in this sense, your work. So having faith and trust with that, with those two areas, and with relationships will be key. And I think just with you in general, this early part. Now, as we go through the week, the sun then goes up to a conjunction with Pluto, who's then going to be squaring up to Uranus. And this is all what's a part of this new moon taking place on Saturday. So as we approach that new moon, we are getting a lot of the same energy. And that sun transforming. And the sun is naturally your home and family and your emotions and your health in many ways. So your health could be transforming. Things around home and family could be transforming, being open to that. And keeping it all nice and balanced, because with the sun squaring up to Uranus, and again, it's all part of this new beginning. And it's been this transformative time for these past few years in regards to this. Keeping everything nice and balanced with your ideals, all right, with your visions for the future, maybe with groups or community things, right? But if you're feeling that impulse, if you're feeling that drive, it's a good thing to listen to it and that intensity there with what's really meaningful to you, but take it nice and slow and ground it with that square. All right, and that's going to be a segue into that new moon on Saturday. Now on Friday, Thursday and Friday, we do have Jupiter going station retrograde. So for about the next 5 months, it's a good time to reflect on your home, on your family, on your health. Maybe redo some things in regards to those areas. Now it's been a lot of wisdom, a lot of expansion here for you to learn more about these areas. But now with Jupiter retrograde, it's usually much more internalized in that sense. And this is a very supportive area of the chart. This whole early part of the year, in fact. This new moon and then soon to be, these other planets are all going to be trining up to this Jupiter North Node. All right, and Jupiter going over the North Node at the end of this week. So with this, there's basically this shift with this expansion and with what's possible and with what you're learning about home or family or your health. There's now going to be a life path shift for the next 2 years to have an opening and to have support for you to move into perhaps solidifying more of these roots in your life. Okay, so it's a great conjunction because you get the benefits of Jupiter, but at the same time you get the direction and support with the North Node. Okay, and of course keeping it all within balance without going to any extremes. All right, with that. And this is a shift from, I think, where it has been very much in regards to your self-expression over the past 2.5 years. Now things definitely shifting into the more emotional, nurturing, and root part of your life. So you'll probably feel that at the end of the week once Jupiter gets closer, but especially after that retrograde. Now on Friday, the sun does sextile to Chiron, so it could be a healing week in regards to the health, the home or family stuff. And then, like I said, Venus does conjoin over Saturn. So Friday, Saturday, patience, maturity, especially with those one-on-one connections. Could be something new in many ways, though. Oftentimes conjunctions are like new moons. Something new with relationships that does really pull on that maturity of Saturn. All right, it's a new Saturn cycle with that in terms of relationships, in terms with you in many ways, too, over the next year. So the new moon's going to be in that 8th house, like I said. So it's a good later part of the week to reflect, go within. It's going to be very deep, very transformative, especially in the 8th house. So it's always great to be open to seeing who you are on that deep level and transforming and really grounding perhaps these inclinations and ideals that you have from that 11th house, maybe with the networks, maybe with things involving groups, community things, technological stuff, what have you. All right. So Taurus, have a great week. If you guys have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you guys all next time. Take care.